Hello, welcome to Culture Vultures. I'm Sandy Frye, your host. Our creative director is Nancy Cole, and this is a program that examines culture and the arts all around the Tampa Bay area. I'm very glad to welcome our guest today, Dr. James Moy, who was named Dean of the USF College of the Arts about a year and a quarter ago. The College of the Arts includes the Schools of Art and Art History, the School of Theater and Dance, the School of Music, the School of Architecture and Community Design, which didn't exist when I worked there, the Institute for Art Research, the Museum of Contemporary Art, and Graphic Studio. That is a big order. Also, there are around 1,500 students in all of these places per year, and about 250 degrees are given from baccalaureate to doctoral degrees. So everyone's busy, and I'm sure the faculty is growing exponentially. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I want to say also that Dr. Moy brings not only national but international experience with him. He had a number of roles, including leadership of the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design. He was Dean and Professor of Art in the Ontario College of Art and Design in Toronto. He was Dean of the School of Creative Media at the City University of Hong Kong, and that's just the international. He also was at the College of Fine Arts at the University of Mexico, and he served at the University of Wisconsin at Madison, where he rose to chair the Department of Theater and Drama. And that's quite a resume. Let me ask you, from your perspective, are all schools of art inclusive of the same colleges, or all colleges of arts inclusive of the same schools?
Indeed, no.
No. Do any of these resemble what USF does that you had worked in?
Not really. For the brief time I was at University of New Mexico, there was a similar program already there.
Right.
But most of the places I've worked have had very tightly focused colleges or faculties of art and design. In this case of Hong Kong, it was the School of Creative Media, which was an art school, but which also focused primarily on digital production.
Which isn't particularly stressed in USF, is it?
It isn't yet, but we're beginning to edge deeper into that area. We've just hired a new animation faculty person. We're about to hire a painter who's invested in animation in the moving image, and so we're edging into that area more.
That's it. That's interesting, because roughly 20 years ago, I interviewed a young student who just stumbled into USF. He was accepted at Florida University of Florida, but when he came there, they had no record of him at all. And he was stunned, and he called a couple of friends who had gone to USF, and they were talking, and he told them what happened. And they said, "Come on over. We'll take care of you. It's fun here, and it's interesting." And he did. He was in art, and he went to work for Disney. Ultimately, and he was into robotic creatures. As a matter of fact, he had a creature next to him with winking eyes, and it was the first time I thought, this must be fun. But at the same time, students at USF in the College of the Arts have to take core courses as well as their specialties. So it's dance and theater are just two, and music really too, and art are very physical. They can be very physical. So I always passed theater students who were reading lines to each other to memorize them, and then one would say, "But I have to study for this, and I have to study for that." And I thought, they are really working twice as hard as just about any other student in the university. But at the same time, when Tampa was much smaller a town and had no museums, certainly, it had an enthusiastic core of arts lovers, but to be satisfied by any of the productions, they would come to USF. And not just the students, but not the student productions, but productions that the National Endowment for the Arts were presenting to qualifying universities and colleges. So that Guarneri String Quartet played here many years. Alvin Ailey came, Pilobolus came, Bela Lewitsky dance, just this ongoing parade of top talent, and what the townspeople were seeing and what the students were seeing was the best of the best. And so they had a high expectation, and I think that's what may be behind all the really good buildings and facilities that are existing now. And luckily, the students and the College of the Arts have sort of risen with them and expanded. What have you seen that you think is particularly impressive, and what about USF spoke to you when you were being interviewed and so forth?
Well, I think the talent level here is really quite spectacular. I see my role in running an art school as facilitator, as one facilitator, one who makes it possible for the student to find the obsession, if you will, that he'll latch on to and run with for the rest of his life. And so it's about obsessive procedures. The arts are about practice. The arts are about doing something, not studying something.
That's
and
right.
so the violin student will practice 5-6 hours a day. The actor will rehearse his lines hours on end. Dancers will repeat their movements over and over until they're just so. So it's really about doing as opposed to the sort of standard practice of memorizing or learning.
Right. Well, one of the most...
And this is what attracted me most, actually, was that I could see the talent was there, and I could see that there was an administration that was ready to support this.
One of the things that may have impressed you too was the facilities. The dance building, for example, is such that it has become the site. It was the site of the statewide Dance Association conference, and it has become, again, it's moved from Miami back to Tampa because of the facilities it has, and it's really quite excellent. The music building now, which had been, it had been like the Holy Grail. I mean, there was a time only a few people saw it, but they saw it all the time. And those were obviously the music professors and the music students. And there was a time when everybody saw it, but just for a half a minute. That was about it. And finally, our time came. And I think that was just a wonderful event that came. And beyond that, it has become a Steinway building. Now, what does that entail?
That means that the vast majority of the pianos on the site are Steinway pianos, which means, of course, we have to spend a lot of money to purchase them.
I would imagine, yes.
I think the latest count, we have something in the neighborhood of 88 going on 90 of these instruments, and we are, I think ultimately we'll sort of settle in at around a little over 130, between 125 and 30 instruments.
That's
all
amazing.
Steinway, or some of their other pianos.
How about, where are the operatic productions going to be held from here on in? Does the music building, is that appropriate for it, the big theater?
Well, I think in the past they have staged operatic pieces in the large theater, the one they call Theater 1.
They have.
And I think the intention is to continue doing so.
In the big theater.
To build an opera house would be a dream, but I don't see that as something that will materialize in the near future.
There may also be the possibility of cooperation between the professional company here and the school. Yes. And certainly the Florida Orchestra, which has a number of USF professors and former students too, has just about a week ago presented Mozart's Requiem with James Bass and the Maestro Chorale, and it was glorious. It was absolutely fantastic. So that sort of brings me to another point. Back in the day, there weren't that many opportunities, except maybe for art teachers, music teachers, theater teachers, but not many. Professional, as I said, there were no facilities for professional plays to be presented, and now there is, one has just opened about a year ago in the Channel District, and of course the Stratus Performing Arts Center has facilities, both intimate theater and any production you can imagine. So that's a good thing. But do deans worry about their students when they go out, and hoping that there will be opportunities for them?
Absolutely. And I've been talking with Judy Lisi and Mark Sforzini. So in the area of opera, certainly our people will be able to avail themselves of internships and work opportunities in both of these production units. Right. And perhaps I will get down to Sarasota as well. I have seen things down there.
Well,
and so yeah. in the area of music, certainly. Likewise, we're working to establish connections with galleries and visual arts venues and theatrical things as well. Yeah.
I think you are one of a number of deans from USF and the College of, what it was, the College of the Arts to begin with, that belong to the International Association of Deans of Fine Arts College. Yes. What does the association do?
Well, it's an interesting gathering where deans of academic institutions across the United States can gather and share best practices, and at the same time commiserate over the issues that threaten back on their home campus.
What kind of things do they think about, and what would they like to improve on a general, non-specific level?
Oftentimes budget.
Budget, yes.
The challenges of budget
sure.
shrinkage and such. And we also talk about more effective ways of confronting that through creation of other income streams, fundraising and other ways of income production for art schools.
Do the issues of international exchanges ever come up?
Oh, all the time, yeah.
It was maybe 5 years ago or so, maybe 8. I always have to add 3 to 5 years to whatever I'm thinking of. A group of Chinese modern dancers came, and they did a piece to, I think it's Pink Floyd's Brick in the Wall, We Don't Need No Education. And it was done to that, and it was something. And they called people up from the audience to dance with them. And at the end, it was a real experience. And I thought, oh, I wish we had more of these things. And interestingly enough, when the Olympics were going to be presented in China, a group from the Olympic Committee came and asked if there were any modern dance groups. Well, they didn't have the faintest idea if there were. They didn't think so. But someone said, yes, there's this modern group that's still in existence. Let's see how they came. And they were sort of the belle of the ball, I'm told. But that kind of international exchange is something that I think that the president of USF, Judy Genshaft, really promotes. She really is looking for a worldview.
Absolutely.
And in the arts, what would that mean?
Well, first off, you should know that Judy Genshaft has provided out of her own pocket funds for students in international exchange programs so that they can go overseas. I think it's called the Passport Program. I'm new, I'm not quite clear on the details, but so students can avail themselves of that availability. Above and beyond that, there are many programs in which our students, for example, spend time in Paris. And last year there was a large group from architecture that was involved in programs in Ljubljana, Slovenia, and we have connections with China as does everyone else. And all over the world we have many things happening. I was just a month ago in China working with a university in Qingdao to try to organize exchanges between music faculty and students, as well as dance faculty and students. Do students of dance in China take the classical instruction, or are they also modern dancers? It's very interesting. The group I just met with in Qingdao had faculty who were educated in the former Soviet Union, who learned the essentially the Russian ballet tradition, and were teaching that technique to their students. But what was really quite interesting, as far as I'm concerned, was the fact that they were teaching the Russian ballet style of movement, but with interesting sort of Chinese additions. Oh. Chinese in the sense of where on one level we're talking about the romantic ballet or the classical ballet. Mm-hmm. The Chinese tradition was the tradition that came out of Madame Mao's revolutionary ballet. So there was a movement vocabulary that was very strident and strong and militaristic, sort of inserted into the very graceful movement structure, movement vocabulary, if you will, yes, of the classical. So it's really quite interesting to see these things.
Tell me, what prompted you to become an arts person?
My mom wanted me to be a doctor. Uh-huh. So I was studying in a pre-med program, and as is often the case when you're an undergraduate student, you look for a job that sort of supports the intended trajectory of your academic career. So I was working in the laboratory of a developmental geneticist, and I was the technician for his electron microscope research work. In other words, I took pictures using the electron microscope as a transmission EM. And I was just so taken by the images that I photographed, that I made. These were glass plate images then. I'm sure now they're all digital. Mm-hmm. But I was so taken by the images that I drew them. Mm-hmm. My parents had a Chinese restaurant, you know, the ones with the paper tablecloths, the white paper table, mm-hmm, butcher paper, and you tear it off. Yep. And, well, I tended to doodle on that white paper. Mm-hmm. And there came a time when I covered half the tables in the restaurant with these doodles. And I decided that I needed to tell my mom that I no longer wanted to study medicine, and that in fact I was interested in studying drawing and painting. And so that's how I made the shift from something, but into the study of art. And so I graduated initially with a degree in studio painting.
And that was in mid-America, was it?
That was in Chicago. University of Illinois in Chicago. Yeah, a long time ago.
Nothing like that. But as a dean, and you have the opportunity to introduce new things. And one of the things I think you've done previously is fund an endowed chair which would help in diversity at the college. Is that something that you enjoy doing?
Yes, I'm very committed. This is one of the pieces that brought me into administration, actually, is that this was at the University of Illinois, the University of Wisconsin, rather, in Madison, mm-hmm, where I was a department chair, and my writing had taken a couple of different trajectories, but at this particular moment in time, I was writing about issues of racial diversity and racial representation, and clearly these issues could also be seen playing out on the stage. And I decided that it was useful to consider diversifying my faculty, which I did at the University of Wisconsin. And in that process, I learned that I could actually bring about some change. Yes. And that the change could be positive and good. And so it was this that brought me into administration, the idea that, well, perhaps I should try doing this on a broader scale.
Well, I think the arts have always had the responsibility, and it isn't something that is cast upon you, but to point out societies, either the things that they would like to change, or they would like to point out in a way that is not a direct confrontation. Yeah. Certainly in the past couple of years, issues that might have taken years to be accepted by a nation as broad as this, and thanks to computers and the instant media, people have have had their ideas challenged, but they've also been able to see other perspectives that may not have been available to them. Certainly things like Rent, which was a sort of an expanded, diversified edition of La Bohème. The movie, I can remember the first movie, I think, which dealt with homosexuality, had Tom Hanks in it as a lawyer, I think in Philadelphia. There was another one, but Angels in America, of course, was such a moving and effective play that it probably is remembered and will be remembered in things like that. We're presenting a different aspect of ideas that the country needed to explore and then to accept. And that was a very interesting thing. And certainly you have to begin with faculty, but that's very difficult too if you have a very small pool to deal with. That's very, very interesting. And most recently I was at a documentary film festival, and there is a film that's going to be presented by HBO, I think, within this year, and Random House is putting out a book on it, and it's about two African-American boys from Harlem who were friends and accepted by the Dalton School, which is a immensely expensive private school in New York. And they were followed for 14 years, and you see them at the end where they are just entering. One is entering, he got very interesting graphic design, he's in there. The other one is in Occidental in California. And a number of issues are brought out by this particular documentary, and I think probably if it goes the way the filmmakers hope it will go, it will open a whole new area of inquiry and consideration on as to the difference in African American girls who have not the same problems in school as opposed to the boys. Although I have to say that the school was more concerned with being known as diversified than actually dealing with diversity. But nonetheless, it identifies a situation that should be explored, and the arts are the place that it's happening. What do you have in mind for it, and anything that should be fun and surprising and good to think about in the next several years?
Well, what you just said is of interest to me, because what you've described is a sort of trajectory around issues of marginality and the margins and the edge of things, and that's something that I'm very focused on, because I believe strongly that the arts focus not on the center of things, but in fact on the margins. Innovation never happens in the middle of something that's already ongoing. It always looks at the edges, and you'll find the definition of the new trajectories somewhere out there in those fringe areas. The arts are about looking at different aspects, but from a radically different perspective. I like to cite the sort of breakthrough points in various arts. We think of dance is an area where for many years the primary focus was on a sort of classical tradition, and then subsequently on a modernist tradition. And then you look there and there's someone like Twyla Tharp who says, well, pedestrian movement is good. You know, the way people walk down the street is good. And so the shift is made from a sort of transmitted expectation to something that heretofore had simply not been looked at, or Samuel Beckett, you know, and is Waiting for Godot. You have here a piece that focuses on inactivity, where previous to that all plays had to be active. They had to have a beginning, middle, and end, and his
and those are changing too. Those constructs are changing too. Absolutely.
And then the shift that John Cage points out in music, from music is not just sounds. There's also the silences. There are the silences that exist in between the sounds that give the sounds meaning. without the silencers, it would just be this noise.
That's right.
And so I like the fact that we look at those margins, we look at those edges of the sort of received knowledge and find ways forward. And that's what I'm about, is facilitating the progress of schools. I have several schools, but in all cases I want them to be constantly questioning the trajectory that they'll pursue going forward.
Right.
And it's not about stability, it's about, in fact, a sort of
movement, moving,
constant change.
Right.
Some people say that in the arts there's a great deal of argumentation that takes place, and I say that's good.
Yes.
It's called creative friction. Without creative friction, we would all be sheep marching in the same direction. So,
exactly.
So that's what I'm about, and I think that's what we need to encourage that in our students. Right. We need to provide them a nurturing, supportive environment where on one hand they're exposed to a vast array of different techniques and different thought patterns, but they can also see that within this craziness they can find some things that might be inspiring and useful.
It's a wonderful way to put it. This has just sped by. It's so nice to have you, and we've been here for a half hour talking about that. And as we leave, maybe we can see some of the images from the graduate student exhibit that's currently at the Contemporary Art Museum. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
I appreciate it very much, and thank you for being with us. Join us again.
Laura says we should start worrying about drinking at these things.
You're only 12.
I know. I'm just glad you know better, sweetheart.
You're too smart for that, right, honey?
Real kids are curious about alcohol. 40% tried by the 8th grade. Talk early, talk often, get others involved.
Are you tired of your old, boring videos? Interested in learning how to make your own videos more appealing? At Tampa Bay Community Network, we can teach you how to make your videos look more professional. You can even learn how to operate a television studio and produce a live or pre-recorded show. Learn Final Cut Pro, Live Type, Motion, plus much more. For more information, please call 813-254-1687 or visit tbcn.org.
G Morning Sunshine, text me back. LUV love you. JK, holla back, holla back.
Are you with your friends? That's lame.
We're in a huge fight right now. XO.
What'd you dream about?
Something I did.
Are you on your way to the mall?
I'm lonely. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.